What is up, everybody? It is Coach Alex here, and I'm going to tell you about a lot of the different punches we throw, some of the defensive movements, and basically all the terminology that we like to use here at Title Boxing Club in Pittsford. So first thing we want to do is get our fighting stance right, and this is very critical. It's just like you wouldn't want a house that didn't have a good foundation, because everything is going to be built on top of this fighting stance. Now, one thing you may notice is I have my right foot back and my left foot forward. That is because I am right-handed. This is how a right-handed person wants to stand. You want your power side back. Just like if you're going to try to throw a ball, right? You would want that power side back. If you're left-handed, it's the opposite. You're going to have your right foot forward and your left foot back. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be doing everything in a right-handed stance, in what's called an orthodox stance in boxing. Now, even if you right with your left hand, and I would say about 50% of lefties I've talked to are like this, whatever side, if you had to throw a ball as far as you could, what hand would you use? That's the hand you want to have back. So even if you left-handed, do a lot of things left-handed, but if you threw that ball, you'd want to throw it with your right hand, you're going to fight like an orthodox fighter. So when we take steps in boxing forward, it is different than how we move in just about any other facet of life. So it takes some getting used to, right? If I'm going to move forward, I'm in my fighting stance, right? I never want to get out of this fighting stance. So if I move forward, I'm going to take a step with my front foot, and I'm going to follow with my back foot. If I go backwards, my back foot's going to step, my front foot's going to follow. And what you may notice is I come back to my fighting stance every time. If I go to the left, if I go to the right, if I circle and pivot, whatever I do, I'm always coming back to this home base that is the fighting stance. Again, that is our foundation. It is critical. We're always in that good, strong, balanced position. So moving in boxing, make sure we don't bring our feet together. We also don't want our feet in line with each other. We don't want our feet crossed. We don't want any of the things we would do normally in life when we walk is different than when we move in and out, left and right, and circle in boxing. All right, so before we even get to punching, I'm going to tell you a crazy thing about boxing that a lot of people do not know unless they've done it for a long, long time. You don't punch with your hands, with your arms, with your shoulders, with your chest. No, it starts in your feet. It starts in the ground. We push off the ground, and from there, we drive that force through our hip, through our core, and then our hips and shoulders turn, and then finally that hand snaps out. Whatever punch we throw, it's going to start in the leg. So the very first thing to activate should be your feet on the ground. Pushing your foot into the ground, you're going to get power from that. Your legs, of course, are much stronger than your arms, so we want to use that leg power. Boxing is a full body exercise, so no matter what punch you're throwing, I want you to think it starts from the feet, it goes all the way through that kinetic chain into those fists. All right, so we're going to start with, of course, the most important punch in boxing, which is the jab. Now, the jab is going to be your lead hand. For a right-handed person like me, that's going to be my left hand, right? It's a quick, snapping punch. Not necessarily a power punch. It's more like you're getting snap on that jab. Now, you might say, if it's the most important punch, why am I not using my strongest hand? Because number one, it's going to set up that power side, but there's also a lot of other great things about the jab. I won't bore you with details now, but ask me sometime. So again, the important thing about the jab is we're whipping it. If we try to be tense and stiff and throw punches, we're not going to get anything on them. If our arms are loose and we whip it and snap it back, almost like you're whipping someone with a towel, that's where you're going to get the sting. So I'm throwing jabs on the back, I'm going to snap it, and bring it right back to my guard. Every punch starts, as you can see, from my guard, which are my hands up, and it comes back to my guard. Not only does it keep me protected, it keeps it consistent. Every punch begins and ends at the same place. So cross is going to be your power hand. Now, it is a straight punch. It needs to travel, just like the jab, in the absolute straightest line possible to the target. You don't want to add any extraneous movement to it. What I see a lot of people doing when they throw their cross is, number one, not using their body, and we talked about that before. When I throw my cross, the first thing that's going to happen, I'm going to push my back foot into the ground. I'm going to turn my hips. My heel is going to turn out. I'm not turning my back heel. They call it squashing the bug. I don't know if you can see, turning the back heel out. I'm not doing it just to do it. I'm doing it because I want my hips to rotate. Imagine when you throw punches that you're trying to punch somebody very short with your hips. So if I'm throwing my cross, I'm going to pull my left side back and rip my right side forward, right down the middle. Another thing we want to make sure we do on a cross is keep our elbows from going wide. These straight punches, jabs and crosses, need to travel in a straight line. If you bring your elbow out, you're losing power. It's coming away from your center of mass. If you keep your elbow in, you're gonna get more power behind it from those legs, from those hips, from those core. Now, a lot of times boxing coaches will say, you've gotta turn your palms down for jabs and crosses. You actually don't. You can get just as much power with a thumbs up cross than you can with that little corkscrew at the end. At the very least, learn the corkscrew part later, right? For now, work on just the good rotational mechanics of the cross. It'll be a lot stronger. You don't need that other part yet. Now we're gonna get into those hook punches. Now, if jabs and crosses come straight down the middle, hooks go around the side. And they call them hooks because your arm looks kind of like a hook shape when you throw it. You actually don't need to swing your arms on hooks. A lot of times that's the natural thing, swing your arms. What you really want is a quick, sharp turn of the hips. You wanna bring your elbow up. You wanna act like you're holding a mug of coffee. You want your fist, your elbow, your shoulder all in alignment, parallel with the floor, and the power is gonna come from that rotation. So we're talking about the lead side, my left side. I'm gonna get a lot of power from that rotation and pulling my weight from my front foot to my back foot. Now, this is very hard to do. In fact, I would say this is one of the most awkward things to learn. Naturally, if something's in front of you, you feel like you wanna reach for it. But instead, you wanna pull back when you throw that left hook. You wanna bring your weight back, not a ton, and you don't wanna pull with your head, but you want your hips to turn and that lower body weight to transfer. I'm turning out my left heel just to help facilitate my hips turning, right? Some people will say you don't need to turn your heel. If you've got great rotation, maybe not. But for learning, absolutely, it's important to understand that weight transference from your left, from your front to your back, from your left to your right. Now the rear hook, the right hook, a little bit easier, but we are turning our back heel. Again, we're pushing off the ground, rotating, you're bringing your elbow out, and you're turning quickly with the hips. The power coming from that hip turn. Not necessarily an arm swing. Right hooks, you're gonna throw close in, and again, you wanna make sure that you're bringing your hands right back after you land it. You're not thinking wild swings. Also on hooks, you don't need to bring your hands way out here either, right? You can just bring them out 90 degree or more angle, never less than 90 degrees. So even if I have to throw a long hook, I can open up and still get there. Those are your lead hook, rear hook to the face, which is the default. We're also going to talk about throwing hooks to the body. Generally, we'll call them body shots, right? So we'll throw a lead body shot, rear body shot. The mechanic and motion is the same, but we're dropping our hands. You can drop your knees down a little bit, but that's not the important part. The important part is really getting that quick hit to about, let's say, the rib cage, your own rib cage. So you imagine you fight someone as tall as you. My face is here, hook is here, my ribs are here. That's where I land the body shot. Now here we like to throw my favorite punch, which is the liver shot. It's kind of a variation on the body shot, on the lead body shot. But instead of going circular, like a circular hook, it's kind of coming 45 degrees up and out. I always like to imagine the superhero Wolverine. If you've ever seen him, he's got those claws and stabbing my claws right through that liver. One of my favorite punches. You get hit in the liver, it is a system shutdown. So that's why I love it. Next, we're going to talk about those uppercuts. And like the name suggests, right, they come up. But what I think a lot of people have trouble with is using your legs to lift those punches up. What a lot of people do is drop their hands, especially early on, and throw uppercuts like this. Now you can, but you're wide open for punches and you're not going to get as much power. You're going to get that power from the legs. So I want you to think about, before you throw an uppercut, you're dipping down, you're loading in the legs. You don't even need to drop that hand yet. You're loading down, you're pushing off the ground, exploding upwards, rotating, turning that palm up as you launch that uppercut from low to high. Lead side, dip and lift. Rear side, dip and lift. And again, you don't need to drop the hand. I know a lot of people do, and a lot of great fighters do. It's not the end of the world, but I want to stay protected, and I also want to maximize my legs. The more I don't think about using my hands, the more I have to use my legs, and I get power from them, which is always going to be the hips and glutes as well. It's all good. Now, when we throw uppercuts on the bag, it's interesting, because these bags do not have chins. An uppercut's primary target would be underneath the chin. You want to lift it up like a Pez dispenser, but no chin on the bag. So we have to go out a little bit. We have to go up and out. 45, maybe not a 45 degree angle, but you can't go straight up because you'll miss. So I didn't miss, but That's the idea. If I go straight up, right? I want to make contact, so I want to come out a little bit. And now people might say, well, that's different than how you throw it. Not necessarily, because people might tuck their chin, so you might have to come out anyway when you throw those uppercuts. The key is really just using those legs. Using those legs, making it a full body exercise. If you've ever seen Mike Tyson throw an uppercut, that's the kind you want. Even if you don't care about boxing, you're going to get so much better workout throwing uppercuts with your whole body explosively than you ever will dropping your hands. It's time for the overhand. Now the overhand is always going to be your power hand. Again, I'm right-handed. It's going to be my right. There, you could throw an overhand left, but it's not very common. We don't do it much in class. It's going to be that power hand, right? And the overhand is kind of a crazy move. You're actually drawing. I'm going to turn this way so you can kind of see I'm drawing almost a little circle with my elbow. I don't want to do the whole hand like a windmill, just my elbow. And I want to drop down. I'm going to dip my left shoulder as I bring my weight down into the punch. So I'm dipping my left shoulder. Notice I'm bending my knee too. Not just bending it, really I'm falling and catching myself, catching my own weight from the punch. Now when you throw overhands on the bag, here it gets even crazier because instead of my palm just being down or to the side, I want to rotate it all the way so my thumb is down. Now it's very important we always hit with our top two big knuckles when we hit the bag. And that's true in an overhand. I'm throwing that overhand, hitting with those knuckles, but I'm turning my wrist all the way. Why? Because it gets the power of my elbow behind the punch. Feels very awkward at first. In fact, when someone first told me that, I thought they were kidding. But I can see it now. You get a lot more power from those overhands. So again, overhand, right. We're looping our elbow. We're dropping our weight. We're dipping our shoulder. We're getting that power into the overhand. And we're turning our heels all the way out just like we would on a cross, just like we would on a rear hook, except maybe even more extreme because it's got a bigger motion to it. All right, so those are most of the major punches we throw. That's our offense, but what about our defense? Now, defense in boxing, there's a lot of different options you have, but I will give you the top two that we do in our classes all the time. So the first is called a slip, S-L-I-P. Why it's called a slip, I don't really know. It's not the best name in the world. What you're doing is you're moving your head offline a little bit. You don't have to go far because you're dodging straight punches, right? So I'm slipping, I'm turning my shoulders, I'm moving my head offline, and I'm putting that weight on that other foot. Because everything in boxing, whether we're throwing punches or defensive moves, is shifting weight from one foot to the other. 60-40, let's say. That is the essence of boxing. If you can master that, you can master boxing. So slipping, you're just turning your shoulders, moving your hips, dodging straight punches. Now, of course, we don't want to just dodge punches. The nice thing about the slip is it will load a counter punch. So whatever side you slip to, your weight is on that side. We're usually going to throw that punch as a counter. Same thing is true with rolls. Now, what's the difference between a slip and a roll? Again, not a great name. A roll is ducking down. You're going underneath a punch. Generally, this would be hook punches, but it could also be straight punches, overhands as well. You're ducking down, getting out of the way. Pretty much anything that's not an uppercut, you can roll. The important thing is that you duck first, and then you turn. If all you did was ducked, you wouldn't get hit, and that's a good thing. What you want to avoid is combining them together where you go like this, right? Because then you can run right into that punch. So you want to duck first, roll under. And just like a slip, right? If I roll to my left side, I'm going to throw my left hand. If I roll to my right side, I'm going to throw my right hand. Normally, not always, but most of the time, because my weight is on that side. Now again, there's other defensive moves that we're going to do. You know, we're going to do pulls, we're going to talk about blocks, covers, all kinds of things, but the slip and roll are the main things. And again, they really help you understand those body mechanics, shifting your weight from one foot to the other. It sounds simple. Technically, maybe that part is simple, but it's not easy. Boxing is a sport, is a skill set. You learn it for years and years and years, and you never get perfect at it. You just get better every time. That's what we're here to do, help you get better. If you have any questions at all, let me know how I can help you get better. That's my mission here. I hope this video has been good. Thank you for sticking with it. For those of you who are still watching, bless you, and we'll see you soon at Title Boxing Club. That is how we do it.